Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew here, back for our build review show. It is Tuesday, February 11th of 2025, and on this show, I bring users builds up live on stream, giving them personalized feedback and advice about things I think that they can do differently in their builds to ultimately help them build stronger lineups, submit better lineups into their contests, and also improve their post-contest sim ROIs as well. So, we've been doing this show twice a week for a while now, typically Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern. We didn't have our Monday or Friday show this last week because I was out. So I wanted to do a show today on a Tuesday here, just so people who have been patiently waiting can get their reviews in, and then they can use those for the rest of the week here. We will have our show on Friday, and then going forward, we are only going to have this show on Fridays for the foreseeable future. So the Monday show was really a lot of reviews for like following, NFL weekend on Sundays and stuff. We had like a ton of those, but with NFL season over, we're going to be moving to a Friday only schedule. So we'll have the show this Friday, we'll have the show today, and then starting next week, Fridays only. So just want to update you guys on the schedule here. But with that said, we do have 3 people signed up today to get some reviews in. So excited to get back into the swing of things here. First person up is going to be Brandon. And here we're going to be reviewing the February 2nd NBA main slate here. So I have the main slate pulled up. We are going to start on their contest page as always here. And contest selection looks really good. Notice they're even double entering. They're waiting for, like, we call it like the respawn contest to open up here. So there's the and one. And then if this gets close to filling, they will open up a second one. They do this for dime times. They do this for quarter jukeboxes. They do this for flagships, right? They do this all the time. So sometimes you could get some additional action in at the low stakes if you wait till the respawns open up here. So that's a good thing to take advantage of, and a good note here for sure. Second good thing we see, right? We do see a swap build here. So they are late swapping their lineups on this slate, which is really, really good, right? Exactly what you want to see. Now let's go into one of these contests. We will look at the highest prize pool 20 max here. And I thought I had it pulled up. Let's open this up. And then let's go over to the users page. And we're going to look at people who entered 20 lineups, sort by sim ROI. So this is really good, right? 73% sim ROI. Highest sim ROIs are like somewhere above like 85%. And they're right on the cusp of this, right? So I would be happy seeing a number as high as 73%. Now what you can do is you can kind of come in here, look at some of the differences. So using a lot of salary, 49.9, 1 average dupe, 287.5 sim average score. And then, if you come in here and you find somebody with a similar metric, right? So I see a couple things here. I see a person with 1 average dupe with 290, so a little bit higher sim average score. See some other people with 1 average dupe, 288.9, 290. So it seems like they're getting to like 1 to 2 more points in projection. And then we see one person here with a similar sim average score of 0.03 difference, and they have 0 average dupes. So seems like either, and I don't want to like say like you need to do this or anything, because I think your numbers are so strong, but like this just shows you, how little you're off, right? Like 1 average dupe less for the same sim average score, or like 1 to 1.5 sim average score higher. And that puts you, right up here at like 90%, right? Like either one of those 2 super small changes affects your sim ROI like 15% here. So that's mostly what I'm trying to like shed some light on, is like, you're so close to being like one of the top maxers here. So all in all, I think it's fine where you're at. Looks like you had decent actual ROI day as well. So that's really good. So this is great, right? This is exactly what we want to see in the contest flashback page. So why don't we go over to your pre-slate build here and look at what decisions you made. All right. So we're in this pre-slate build. Remember they had, 49.9 average salary. Well, that's probably because they have a minimum of 49.8. So they're basically saying, hey, I want to use a lot of salary. And they're telling the builder that up front, which is totally okay. They have one rule, group rule, where it says use at least 5. So this is actually, really aggressive, I would say. And it seems to be working out for them. I don't know where this group comes from exactly, but it's a group of 14 players. And they're saying from this bigger group, use a, smaller subset of them. Whatever, led them to come up with that group, whether it's value, whether it's, their own research, whether it's, exposures or ideas from some other place, right? Seems to be working out well. When you're doing things that are odd, but it works out fine. I'm always going to say like, hey, you keep doing what you're doing because your chances are you're doing this for some reason I don't understand, right? I'm an onlooker. I'm not talking. I don't know where the group of 14 players comes from. I don't know the thought behind it, but what I do know is that the post-contest sim say what you are doing is totally okay. So continue with that. All right. No min or max exposures. No major projection adjustments. Using Saber score. Using direct fill. A lot of these are like probably in like the same kind of range here, or they're just those 10 to 20K can have like the 10 to 50K Saber score can just have a little bit trickle down effect into the, neck. Look like they used any min uniques here. So that's personal preference. If you don't want to use the min uniques, you don't have to. And if you're okay, with some of these higher leverage spots, right? Like there is some pretty big leverage here. I mean, there's like a lot of leverage on Kyler Kelly. There's a lot of leverage on Giannis, Cade Cunningham as well. Seems like all these guys actually, did pretty well, but you're going to run across all types of different players. Some players, will have like the same, core in like all their lineups, right? They're playing a 20 max. They have like the same 4 guys. Some people will come in it, that's like probably the most risky way, right? This way is a little bit less risky. They're like, hey, I have a group of 14, take 5. Some players will like never do something like that, right? So all these kind of different ideas. And sometimes, some players don't like using min uniques. Totally cool. But outside of that, I think this is fine. A lot of your decisions here seem good with me. And I would, I don't want to really like give you ideas about deviating from a winning process, right? Like, is this a, stock Saber sim advice process? The answer is no. Does that mean they should do something different? Also, no, right? If this process is working for them, they like it. We saw 80% positive ROI in the contest that we were looking at with the 72% post-contest sim ROI. Like, hey, you keep doing what you're doing, right? But if you're asking me, what do I think? I think this is good, right? Seems like you found something that works for you, so stick with it. All right. Good stuff there. Good way to get us kicked off. Next person up is going to be Jimmy Type. And we are going to be reviewing NBA again, but we are going to be moving to February 5th, which was a Wednesday. And we will be looking at the main slate from that day. And we're going to be looking at FanDuel as well. So no post-contest sims for FanDuel. That is okay. We can still jump into a build here and just analyze what we're seeing and kind of go from there. So why don't we get this up? All right. So Jimmy Type, Wednesday, FanDuel, NBA main. Starting on the contest tab, playing good contest selection, right? Starting with the most entries they can get, entering some in the 25-cent, which is fine, and then entering a couple shots in the 222. So this is all good here, being bankroll conscious, playing good contests. That's what we like to see. Now, as far as what else do we see? So we see a ton of swap builds, and then we see one pre-slate. So I'm not sure exactly why there's so many swap builds, but what I do want to remind everybody watching is that you don't need to open up a new swap build every single time you run a late swap. You can use the same build. So let's say, I come into this swap 2, right? And, the first set of games lock, I open up the swap 2 for the Washington, Brooklyn, Memphis, Toronto, which is 30 minutes after lock. Well, let's say I late swap at this window, right? And then I'm going to get ready for the next swap window, which is Chicago, Minnesota, and 30 minutes later. I don't need to go reopen a new swap. All I need to do is once the game time passes, right? Once you're like 1 minute past the game time, once it's, here it would have been 4:31 p.m. I just need to go in and click the refresh projections icon. That will tell SaberSim to update the time. And then for all of the players who have now started, it will gray them out. It will gray out their cells. It will gray out their name, and basically locking those players so they cannot be put into or taken out of lineups. So as long as you click that refresh projection after the game time has passed, you can use the same swap build again. And then the builder will know, hey, we can only use players whose games haven't started. So just a small note there. All right. Aside from that, so one thing I see here, which I would probably recommend against, is dropping min salary to 0, right? NBA is a very projection-heavy, projection-focused game. Just looking at Brandon Wright, who just got finished, he was up in his min salary. He was like, hey, I don't even want to allow lineups with this low of salary, because salary is typically correlated with projection. So in my opinion, if you're going to do anything with salary, I would always raise it rather than lower it. If you're fine with the default, which I think is 58,000 for FanDuel, I would go with that. Second thing I'm noticing, actually, right? This is super important. We're looking at a swap build now, right? So when you go back to build 1, I don't know if they upped it to 59,000 or 59,000 is the default, but remember that when you open a swap build, your salary is going to be 0 minimum by default. The reason we do this, okay, is because we never want you to run into a situation where, let's say there is a high value center later in the slate, right? Nikola Jokic. Sometimes there's not going to be any players with a salary near his. And you can have if you have a minimum salary set, it can prevent you from swapping that player out. We never really want you to run into that situation. So we set it to 0 by default. So what I really recommend is keeping an eye on news, right? There's a couple good places to do that. Basketball Monster News Dashboard or the NBA Lineup Alert channel in Discord. If you are not seeing players get ruled out, if you are just seeing some projections move up and down a little bit, but nobody's really getting ruled out, I would keep a minimum salary that you used before, right? So if you used 59,000 in the pre-build, I would set 59,000 again. Or what you could do is you could just clone your settings from your first build, right? So in your late swap pop-up in the bottom left, there's going to be a settings option. It's going to say default. I would just click the drop down and I would switch it, in this case, to your build 1, right? Which is like the first build you have here. And then I would use that and I would continue to use it. Remember, we're only opening the swap build once, right? So I would just clone your settings and then I wouldn't get rid of them unless there was some big news that came out that warranted me dropping minimum salary to accommodate getting an out player out of my lineups. So for late swaps, I would maintain a minimum salary unless you can't, right? Unless there's some reason not to. All right, no filters, no rules. Actually, let's go back to the pre-build. Yeah, no player pull filters, no rules. Using autofill, 1 unique, which is okay. using unique rank, sorting by prize pool, using target ROI. This all looks good. Happy with this. Let's see, projection adjustments. No, pretty standard here. So pretty standard stuff. I think we might be losing a little bit of value with the late swap by losing the minimum salary. So that's probably the biggest thing I would change here. Is trying to maintain anything you're doing, right? Any projection adjustments, any rules, filters. I know I don't really see any, but if you had some, I would say, continue to use them unless there's some reason not to, right? So make that one small change here. Aside from that, I would say, I like your process. It's always a little bit harder to judge FanDuel since we don't have, the post-contest sims there, unfortunately, since they don't allow us to download their contest data. But I do think you're doing a lot of the right things. It seems like you're very keen on late swapping with all these builds. Remember, using one swap window could help here. So make those small updates to late swap. But all in all, I do like the process. Let me know if you have any specific questions, and we can always pick up the conversation there. All right. Good stuff so far. Those were two of the people who signed up today. And then we do have one more person, which is going to be Dean here. And we will be doing a NBA build review for a more recent date here. So I'm just going to go try and find one here. All right. Not this day. Not this day. Okay, cool. So this last one we did was Wednesday the 5th. We're now going to be jumping over to Thursday the 6th here. So we're going to be reviewing some lineups from Dean from the 6th here. Now we are on the contest tab. It's the NBA main slate for Thursday. And contest selection, again, looks really good. Nice balance, single entries, 3 max, low stakes, 1 shot at the big one. This is what we like to see here. I think this is a really strong approach. Now, as far as what we want to review, I'm going to say let's go and check out the Minimax here. Minimax looks like a good contest to review. So we'll let these lineups load. And then let's jump over to users. So we're going to go greater than or equal to 30 since they entered 30 here. Sort by sim ROI. All right. So what do we see, right? So we see 20% sim ROI. That's good here. Highest sim ROI is somewhere above like 40%. So here I would say there's probably a little bit of room for improvement, right? We'll dive in here and look a little bit closer as to what. But we see a 49.7 average salary, 0 average dupes. All seems good. And then we see a 272 sim average score. I think that this is probably where we can improve, right? 272.03. A lot of these other sim average scores, 275.6, 273.5, 276.9, 274.9, 278, 277, 274. All of these are like a 1.5 to 5 points higher. So I think that, we always say there's like a range you could be in, right? To have a good projected score, you don't need the highest, but I think that they're just falling slightly outside of that range. Not 100% sure why. We'll look a little bit closer, but I do think there's something here with getting a slightly higher sim average score, which could take them from, 20 to 40% sim ROI probably rather easily, especially if we can get into like the 275 range. All right. So why don't we go? Looks like build 2 doesn't have lineups. Looks like build 1 does. We do see a swap build here, so that's good, right? Late swapping their lineups. And what do we see? So 500 lineups, 48K min, 50K max, no filters, no rules. 2 minor adjustments to projections. No min or max exposures that I can see. Yeah, no min or max. all stack types allowed. So pretty hands off here. Let's go to the lineups. Using autofill, one unique. So one thing I would do here, right, is notice how you're using unique rank. So what this will do is it makes sure that every lineup is only used one time. If you try to use a lineup twice, it won't allow you to. So once a lineup goes into, the top contest, that lineup is removed and can't be put into a different contest. Okay. So what I think is really important is sorting these in the manner that they, in a way that they matter most to you, right? In my opinion, the easiest way to do that is probably sorting by prize pool, because prize pool is probably going to be correlated to like higher entry fees or the most money you have in a contest or something like that. You probably want your best lineup to go into your highest prize contest first, and then be removed, and then a lower ranked lineup go into your second best, and then third, and then fourth, right? So sorting by prize pool here was definitely one thing I would update. What else can we do here? You could do by entry fee too, right? If you don't want these $10 all the way at the bottom, you can make some manual tweaks, right? So maybe you like prize pool, except you don't want this $10 one at the bottom. Okay, I use the drag and drop feature, and then I drag that one up from the left-hand side here, right? So a couple different ways you could do that. But I would update the sorting in some way, shape, or form here would be my recommendation. Second thing I would do is, if we're having a little low sim average score, and this is what Brandon did, right? The first person we reviewed, you can come in here and increase your minimum salary. It's going to be one of the easiest and quickest ways you could do this, right? So instead of using 48,000, bump this up to 49, bump this up to 49.5. He got really aggressive and used like 49.8, which you could do if you want, right? But I would probably say try 49K first. And then if you notice, you go review your lineups, you're still coming in low, bump up to 49.5, right? And kind of just take like a little bit more of like an incremental approach there, because I do think that could help, right? So minimum salary adjustment here. The way you're sorting your lineups going to be important, right? Like the way it was, this fadeaway was actually at the bottom, right? So it's getting like one of your last ranked lineups by Saber score out of these 78 entries you have, which I'm sure you don't want. So changing the sorting here, adjusting minimum salary are going to be two things I would really recommend. And then, you're already grading out well with like a 20% sim ROI. See if those two adjustments can help you, go from like 20 to 30% here and start making a little bit more headway there. So, going to be a little bit slower here on this one. I want to see how those things work out, and you can always circle back with me, and then we can pull up your lineups again and go from there. But all in all, good stuff. All right. That was our last person who signed up for this show. Reminder, we're going to have the show again on Friday here, 5 p.m. Eastern. If anybody wants to sign up, two ways to do so. One, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Let me know what sport, slate, site you want me to review, just a list, or you could post that same information in the Office Hours channel in our Discord server, and I can get you signed up there as well. But appreciate everybody tuning in. Good luck today in all your contests, and until Office Hours tomorrow, I will see you all then. Take care.